Friends, reptiles, literally every person who has commented on one of my videos asking me where I got my clothes. This is it. This is my magnum opus. If you want to get yourself a fantasy costume for a live action roleplay, a Ren Faire, a Dungeons and Dragons party, a convention, I don't know, name your event, and you can't or don't want to sew, and you don't have access to thrift shops, and you don't want to spend a lot of money, this is the video that will tell you how to do that by buying secondhand clothes online. Disclaimer 1, I realize that this is like War and Peace. I'm gonna put chapters in, cut to the bits that you're interested in, skip through it, watch it in multiple installments. I won't be offended. Thing number 2, should this maybe actually have been, I don't know, a book? Probably. I was like 3/4 of the way through this project before I realized that that maybe would be a good idea. Potentially that's something I will work on in future. Potentially also I will make a shorter summary video. These things may occur. Thing number 3, in theory, you can use this for any website. Poshmark, Vinted, probably ThreadUp. There's more. I'm sure there's more. However, I'm an old millennial, so all these newfangled apps scare me, and I just use eBay. The basic principles should work for other sites as well, other apps. Hell, try it on the Facebook Marketplace. Who knows? Maybe it'll work. And if you've got any extra hints and tips or websites that you particularly like or things that you think I have missed, absolutely go ahead and leave those in the comments. But this video is long enough, so without any further ado, let's get into it. So, welcome to eBay. There's basically 2 ways in which we are going to be refining our searches. One is by using the right search terms, the right keywords, and the other way is through filtering. Filtering takes 2 parts, 2 elements. One is digital filtering, where you use the built-in tools of the site to refine your search and eliminate things that you don't want. And the other is manual filtering. You just got to go through and look at everything. But you don't want to do that last one, the manual filtering, until you've got a small enough pool of items that that's actually worthwhile. So let's pick a search term. In this case, I'm going to use one of the best and broadest search terms, which is tunic. Just tunic. And go. No refinements at all at this point. We now have over 1 million results, most of which superficially don't look like things that you want to wear to a LARP. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to narrow down the category. We are going women's clothing. But Ash, I hear you cry, I'm not a woman. Me neither. Doesn't matter. We're shopping in the women's category. A lot of what we're going to be looking at doesn't exist in men's clothing. There's not a lot of ready-made, fast fashion men's clothing that works for fantasy costumes. You can get some trousers, you can get waistcoats or vests sometimes that'll work, and you get, I think they're called henleys, grandpa t-shirts. They also kind of work. That's about it, and that's going to give you a really limited set of things to draw from. We will look for those things. I don't want you to think if you're not a woman, you have to stick to clothes that were not made for women, because you're going to find way more interesting fabrics, interesting cuts, interesting colours, more fantasy looking clothes that can still work for a masculine or a gender neutral expression. Because we're going to be mainly looking at stuff that is quite loose fitting and often stretchy, most of it doesn't have any bust shaping, which means that if you put it on someone who doesn't have a bust, it doesn't matter. However, with regards to tunic, we are specifically going to go into clothes, shoes and accessories, and we're going to go women. The next thing I always do, regardless of what search it is that I change the item location to UK only. That should, emphasis on the should, eliminate a lot of the drop shippers. And the next thing I do is I go to the condition and I filter it to only used. And that normally filters out 99% of the rest of the drop shippers. Obviously, if you're not in the UK, pick your region. You should have an option for just your region. And you should now just have genuinely secondhand clothes being sold by people who live in the same country as you for postage purposes. The next most important thing you're going to do is you're going to filter by size. Go broad on your size. If you don't know how women's dress sizes work, neither do women. If you don't have a bust, I would look at a size chart that has measurements for a big fast fashion brand, and I would go based on your waist measurement, because in general, for women's sizing, they assume that your bust and your hips are going to be bigger than your waist. They're not always, and this causes all kinds of problems, but that's what they assume. So if you want to be certain that things will fit you and your chest and hips are not significantly bigger than your waist, go based on your waist measurement. And then go a size either side. Again, we're going to look at a lot of really loose fitting clothing, so it's okay if it's a bit flexible. You might struggle with that if you are at the top end of the women's sizing scale. You know, having said that, I'm looking at, and tunics is a massive category. Tunics, you are going to find lots and lots and lots of tunics. Even then, up in the 4XLs, 5XLs, numbered sizing going up to a UK 44. There's some stuff, 60 tunics marked as a size 44. They won't all be a size 44, but some of them will be. There's over 100 marked as a size 42. Usually going to have at least some options, because certainly I find the secondhand market on eBay reflects normal sizing a little bit better than charity shops do. As well as the numbered sizing, you're also going to have like the broad size categories like small, medium, large, which are completely meaningless, but there you go. So I am a tiny human, so I'm going to look at anything that is marked extra small, small, and then numbers, numbers, numbers. Anything that is a 6, an 8, or a 10. Go broad on your sizing. In general, it's better to look at something and then go, oh yeah, actually that might be a bit too small. If it's a bit too big for fantasy costumes, completely fine. From there, you can add any other filters that you want. If you know you want a particular color, you can filter by color. If you know you want a long sleeve top, you can filter by that. You can filter by what material it's made out of. You can also filter by price. It normally gives you an indication of about what price range most things are at. You can put your max budget in. There's a whole bunch of filters you can do. I don't find most of them that useful, but I haven't had to look for anything super specific for a while. The other thing you can do is you can sort it in a particular order. And again, if you're on a budget, I strongly recommend sort by lowest price plus postage and packaging first. We've got our search term, tunic, brilliant search term. One of the ones I use the most. We've got our filters on, we're going to sort it. Lowest price plus postage and packaging first. That's still 24,000 results, so if you're really bored, you can just start from here. If you're not really bored, you may want to add some more filters and say you want it in a particular color, or you want long sleeves or something like that, but just for demonstration, I'm going to start looking for stuff that I might want to buy. Immediately, this coral tunic, that would be fine. I don't love that it's sleeveless. Pink is a pretty good color. Let's mark that one for later. Stripes, no good. Print, way too modern. Print, way too modern. These ones have buttons. I don't like buttons super much. Lots of really modern prints. This blue one might be okay. It might be okay. This vest looks like the kind of thing I would wear, but not necessarily for LARP. This one looks promising. Long top slash dress slash tunic size 8. That's not going to come up in anybody's searches. So we'll have a look at that one. Ladies, sheer layered tunic top size 10, gem detail, holiday, summer, 75p plus £3 postage. Let's have a look at that. That looks too much like a shirt. That looks too much like a strappy dress. Not going to go for either of those. This one with the sort of like paisley pattern, I'm going to look twice at that one. I don't think it's super promising. Bold patterns. Plain, interesting crossover gathered detail, long sleeves. Give it a look. This kind of thing, it's not as long as I would like from a tunic, based on it looks like it's about just a little bit of below hip length. Not really my thing. Some people, that's ideal. Comes up in a lot of costume briefs. Bunch more stuff that looks quite modern. Stripes, I always feel is a bit modern. Really bold, like flower prints, not great. That's super cute, but it has got horses all over it, and I think think I'd struggle to pass that off. Plain colour, looks blousy. Not what I'd necessarily be looking for from a tunic tag, but it's there. We'll have a look. More stripes, more bold prints. I love that that's a black velvet tunic with just a giant flower in the middle. If it didn't have the giant flower, it would actually be quite good. That's a cute blousy sort of peasant top thing. That's interesting. It looks like it's got a pattern, but it's hard to tell what it is from this distance. That looks too much like a t-shirt. A lot more bold prints. That one's got colour blocking, which it feels very modern. That one looks a lot like a button-down shirt. It's quite modern. Yeah, that one... I could go either way on this sort of like t-shirty one. I think it's possibly a little bit short. If my tunics don't look spot on, I'd rather they were longer. Pretty Ladies, that one looks like it might be good. Yumi tunic looks like it has the kind of print that you would get away with, and this Primark top has the kind of button neck that again you'd get away with because it doesn't have the fold down collar, but I don't love either of them. This next top looks interesting. That looks interesting is a good baseline for LARP kit because you want to look interesting. Beach cover-up short tunic, that looks like it might be quite neutral. Okay, let's go through some of these specifics. So first up we have this coral tunic. Immediately I don't love the tie at the back. Personal preference, it gets in the way. A top like this, you're going to be layering a bunch of stuff over it for your kit. The colour is fine, the fabric looks fine, it looks to be in reasonably good condition. So this one, you can see in the close-up images, this has bust darts. So this is going to be shaped around the chest, which means that if you don't have much of a chest, that's something that might not fit quite right. This one is like a 2 out of 10. No, it's better than that. It's like a 4. It would work. I'm not excited about it. This one, almost no pictures, almost no information. You can check the description from the seller. I find that increasingly they are completely useless, so I normally don't bother. This just looks like a long top made of like a t-shirt kind of material. Maybe? It's very hard to tell, but it looks really sheer down at the hem there. Here's the thing, there's nothing wrong with it. It would probably work. Doesn't look like it has much in the way of shaping. It's the kind of shape we're looking for. There's just not enough information about this. The pictures aren't good enough. I wouldn't feel comfortable buying it. You do get that sometimes, unfortunately. This one's kind of wild, so it's got some sparkle. I'm here for that. It's pre-marché, which is fine. So the quality's not going to be great. Longevity of it is suspect. I've had Primark stuff that I've had for since Primark opened, basically, because I haven't shopped at Primark in years, and it's still going. It's kind of hit and miss. Some of it will fall apart and some of it will be fine. I like that it's got a bit of detail. I like the length. The length looks like it's going to be quite generous, which I think when you're looking for tunics really helps. I can't tell. Is that a dart? It might have some shaping. It looks like a sort of floaty material just from the way it's folding. Hard to say. I would consider this one. I can imagine outfits in which I would use that. It would obviously need some layers over the top. I would consider potentially getting this one. So what do you do when you found something that you think you want? What you don't do is you don't immediately buy it. As you're working through your different keywords, prepare the search terms that you think you're going to use, go through them. When you find things that you like, don't immediately bid on them or buy them. Collect them all together, and then at the end compare them against all the things you've seen and you've liked and pick the ones you like best out of that. eBay basically does this for you, so you can just hit watch this item. Also, if it's a buy it now and you hit watch this item, quite often the sellers will come back to you and offer you it for less money. Basically, you should never immediately buy or bid on something that you've just seen. Always give it at least an hour, unless there are exceptions. Like if you found a Selkie dress for not very much money and it was buy it now and you're like, oh my god, someone else will find this any minute, just buy it. Those situations are quite rare. Carrying on with the tunics briefly, quick fire filtering. This one, I like the neckline, I like the length of the sleeves. From a distance, I thought that print was a bit more convincing. Close up, it's a bit too modern for me, and also it has these like colour block side panels. That's a no. This one, this is cute. It's sort of smock-like, it's a little bit more of a dress than maybe strictly a tunic, but it would work. I like the wrap front. That's a nice sort of low-tech detail. I'm always thinking about how hard would this be to make in a medieval fantasy setting. Buttons, hard. Wrap front, actually not hard at all. Balloon sleeves are cute, and it's green. It's a nice generic fantasy colour. Keep an eye on that one. This is less of a tunic, more of a blouse. Oh, I don't like the back. Oh, there's something... Oh, okay. So there's something weird going on with the sleeves on this one. Interesting. I generally feel anytime you find a piece where you're like, aha, I've never seen that before, maybe a good idea to keep on your radar for a LARP character. Unsure on that one, but intriguing. This, again, it's not really a tunic, it's more of a blouse, but it is a very cute blouse. It's very cottagecore, except it's black. So like, is there a goth cottagecore? Witchcore, maybe? That might work. This is another one where I was like, maybe from a distance, that print kind of works. What sort of fabric is this? Paisley, polyester, lightweight tunic style dress. I did wonder if it was velvet, but I don't think, based on the descriptions and the close-ups, that it is velvet. This has got darts. Yes, it's got darts. I don't love what's going on with those sleeves. They look tight. I think this would probably work fine, but maybe not for me. But I do think that this would work for a LARP character. Super generic, very basic shape. I think it's got darts. Nice long sleeves. Nice generic tunic neckline with a bit of lace. It is Primark, which explains why it's £1.50 plus postage. So it's actually £4. I'm not sure I like it, £4. This is another one that I looked at and just went, that's weird. Oh, it's like a drawstring. I don't like it, but you could wear it. Hello, welcome to the trying on clothes portion of the video. We're gonna all act like I'm not weirdly backlit. This was the only place I could put the background at the moment, and it's not perfect. Should have done this at night. Anyway, let us try on some of the clothes that I've got. So now we are on to tunic tops, and this is gonna be like a quick fire round because you guys, it's so easy to find good tunic tops. Observe, it's embroidered, it's blousy, it's got a little bit of interest around here, and it's got a little bit of interest on the sleeves. I think it is meant for someone who is shorter than I am, so it doesn't fit me all that well. Perfectly serviceable, looks kind of fantasy, looks kind of fun, was not expensive. 10 out of 10, no notes, perfect base layer. This is made of like t-shirt material. It's really comfy, and it's also, because it's stretchy, it's not shaped in the chest. So while this is absolutely intended to be a women's shirt, I don't think you have to be a woman to wear it. Or indeed, I don't think you have to have a bust line to wear it. It doesn't matter. And this kind of like lace-up neck detail is way more common in just off-the-rack fast fashion shirts than I think people realize. You can just find shirts like this. So this one's a little bit more modern. It's a little bit more chic. It's not shaped through the chest or waist. It is quite a neutral cut. The sleeves are an annoying length again, but that's just my life. It is this layered overlapping thing that it's got going on. If you didn't like that, you can just, if you belted it, that wouldn't happen. Like, it wouldn't gape open. I quite like that it moves with me. This is the kind of thing I think if you wanted to, you could style it very science fiction, because it's got that sort of very severe modern edge to it. At the same time, because of the color and because of how neutral the cut is, and the fact that I think if you did belt it, the asymmetric crossover detailing would be way less obvious. This could just be an elf. I could just be an elf with this tunic. You do also get tunics that toe the line into a shirt, by which I mean they have a little bit more structure. They have often buttons. Buttons is one of those things that I worry about and literally no one else does. Buttons are historically, until very, very recently, were super expensive. They had to be individually handmade, so they cost a lot of money, especially like metal buttons like this. Bougie, which isn't to say that maybe your LARP character is bougie. This is a purple shirt. Purple, historically, quite a difficult color to dye. Maybe this is just an expensive tunic. I find the shirts like this that have the buttons, the slightly more modern detailing, being, instead of just being very, very simple, they're a little harder to work with. They're a little bit more situational. They're still good. This would still be a really good base layer for a fantasy outfit. If someone was on the field in this and leggings and they had a belt, their stuff, and maybe a cloak, I wouldn't look twice at this. I wouldn't even necessarily register it as a modern garment. I'm not a super big fan of the very popular underbust blouse on front cut. It makes me think of like early Victorian shirts, which is not my favorite thing. Put up with it because it's incredibly popular. This shirt is a great example of what I mean when I say keep your options open, because eBay is full of some incredibly weird shit. This is like a collared batwing crepe shirt with fake fur sleeves. I can't explain this garment. Like, how am I supposed to wash it? Can it just go in the washing machine? Is that okay? Did they think about this at all? I got this because I'd never seen anything like it and no one wanted to buy it, and I was like, I could make so many weird sci-fi looks with this weird severe. Look at the collar. The collar is not even like a shirt collar. It's like a Regency collar almost. You know, you could pop it. I've never tried it like that. The points are a bit long. I don't think that would quite work. But then the sleeves. Just, why fake fur? Why? Why fake fur? It's also really loose and blousy, so you have to like cinch it in at the waist. I love this. It has occurred to me since that actually there's nothing about it that would stop me from using it in fantasy outfits. Like, can you imagine if this was the basis of a barbarian costume, you know, with the axe and the fake fur sleeves? Comment down below what costumes you would like me to try and make involving the shirt with fake fur sleeves, because I think the possibilities, maybe not quite endless, but far greater than I think the creators of this shirt ever imagined. Okay, so we've established how you need to treat each individual search, but the first step of this process is you need to know what search terms to use. I have seen more than a few videos where people search for LARP costume or Ren Faire dress and don't turn up very much, and what they do turn up is very expensive. That is what will happen if you just use terms that are that specific. You have to think a little bit laterally. So here is a loosely ordered list of things I search for when I'm looking for LARP costume. Straight off the bat, yes, you can search for LARP in the clothing section. You're not going to find a whole lot. 99 times out of 100, you won't find anything, or what you do find will just not be suitable. It's worth having a quick just glance over in case of that 100th time. In this case, we've got some random vintage stuff. That's a nice-ish corset. There's some cool bags. There's a fairy dress that looks like a fancy dress costume. That maxi dress is quite cool. I would probably wear that. I don't know if I'd wear that for £30. Cool jacket. That looks like, if that's genuinely Arm Street, which that looks like Arm Street photos, that's a really good price. Some people, not a lot of people, but you do get some people selling their own handmade stuff on eBay. Good on them. It's not a great platform for that, and I really love it when I find something that someone's obviously handmade and it's really cool and really unique. Doesn't happen a lot on eBay because eBay is not a great platform for that. You can also try your specific time periods, so let's just try Renaissance. You're gonna get a bunch of stuff. It's from a brand called Renaissance, or it's got like paintings on it. Most of this stuff is not gonna be any good. There is this bodice. Again, the painting on the front kind of looks pretty modern, but for the right game, maybe that would work. This jacket looks cute. Yeah, this jacket looks cute. I don't love buttons, but I think the sleeves and the other elements of it would probably win me over. Needs a bit of an iron. That's a super cute coat, jacket, top. That would look amazing at a LARP. I think this one is actually LARP kit. It is actually bought from a LARP seller. It's a cute dress. It's not for me. £35 is quite a lot. Leather skirt. 50 quid, maybe not. This is also quite expensive, but this is genuinely like a medieval style with embroidery and everything and lacing up the back. Measurements in the pictures. Do you have a... Okay, it's princess seamed, so it's probably quite shaped. 6 15 inches side to side means that it's made for a 32-inch bust, so that would actually fit me. It is 50 quid though. I'd keep an eye on that one. I shouldn't buy it, but I'd keep an eye on it. Bunch of stuff that t-shirts, pictures, no, none of that's any good. Medieval's usually worth a shout. It helps if you spell it correctly. Medieval normally throws something up. Victorian can throw something up, especially if you want like blouses and maxi skirts. Tudor's not bad. You can also have a go at more like fantasy tropes. So you can search just fantasy. You can try pirate. What's Charlie's video? Peasant and poet. Witch is not bad. Sometimes throws up some nice stuff. It also throws up a lot of crap. You do have to trawl a lot, but there's normally not a lot in those categories, so you can sort of quickly glance over what is there and then make a decision if any of it is actually good, and if it is it at a good price? Okay, so we've already led in with one of the best search terms, which is tunic. The tunic section is bottomless, frequently has a bunch of really good stuff in it. It's one of those search terms that I always sort of ambiently have my eye on because, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there that is no good, but there's also a surprising amount of stuff that is. So another thing you can do is search for specific clothing types that are going to work for LARP. For example, this is one I see a lot of people sleeping on because they don't know they're called this, which is culottes. Culottes are trousers that look like a skirt. You get the floatiness, the swoosh, but it's trousers and it's therefore got a little bit more practicality when you are, for example, climbing a tree. Very neutral grey culottes with a tie waistband. Brilliant. These say they're pinstriped, which is a shame because if they were just white, I think they'd be great. Very neutral. Ooh, pale green. Can you imagine how does your elf transition to like wartime? Culottes. There's some cute pink ones. There are also, you can get like jean ones and ones with prints on them, but I find it's usually pretty easy to find culottes that have very wide legs, which I love, that have very neutral waistbands that don't have a lot of hardware on them. Sometimes they have pockets. Sometimes they have fun little details like having a tie waist. I find they come in a pretty wide range of colours. So while you do have to do a little bit of a trawl, it's normally, they don't seem to be as bad as trousers for coming in black, navy and grey and maybe some other colours. I find it a little easier to find culottes in a range of colours. Also, they're a little bit unconventional, a little bit unique. They're often cropped so they don't get in the mud. There's a bunch of reasons why I think they're a great option for LARP costumes. You can tuck them into your leg wraps and voila, you have Viking trousers. This is the first of 4 character outfits I had a go at styling to illustrate what you can do with some of the pieces I found secondhand. This one is giving anime-style boy wizard, and I'm here for it. The main piece you can see here is a vintage swing coat from eBay. I believe it was quite expensive at around £30 some years ago, but it's been a great investment. I've used it loads. The shirt is the one with fake fur sleeves, £7, and the velvet culottes were a thrift shop find, also around £7. The large shawl was £1 or £2, the narrow red scarf I think the same, both from second-hand market stalls. The belt was from Primark back when those Viking style belts were in fashion and was around £4. The shoes are from Amazon and were £8. Most of the jewellery is also second-hand at a couple of pounds each. The rings, the necklaces on my neck and the one hanging from the belt certainly are. You can immediately double the cost of the whole outfit by factoring the tights, which were £8 from Snag, and the embroidered skeleton brooch and pendant that I'm wearing on my belt, which were around £30 each from Crimson Pins, who's an embroidery artisan. Much as I love these, you could swap them out for alternatives without significantly changing the overall effect of the outfit. And now let's look for more second-hand clothing options on eBay. Maxi dress. You're going to find a lot of things in here that are not maxi dresses because people don't know what it means. A maxi dress should be mid-calf or longer. That will wiggle, like if you are tall, it will not be that long. If you are short, you might have to take them up a bit. I'm going to take it off lowest price just because they tend to be a little bit more expensive. So what don't you want? You do not want strapless. Not really a thing historically. Doesn't look very fancy, looks very modern. I would steer away from anything that's like a shirt dress, so it has like a shirt collar and buttons down the front. I'm sure there's exceptions, but in general, I don't think they work. I would steer away from prints. There are some prints that work and look fantastical. It's not most of them. Solid colors. I mean, look at that. It's embroidered. It's got these beautiful bell sleeves. So it's got a fitted waist and it's got darts, so that is going to be shaped. Nice neutral back. Wear a vest or a shawl over that. You could wear stays over that. Genuinely lovely. Perfect. Would probably, it's a bit out of my price range, would probably like wear that. This might work. It's a solid color. It's a good color. It's got some detail and interest going on. Oh, it's like t-shirt fabric. That's going to be stretchy and it's going to be comfortable, and it doesn't look hugely shaped. I realize we are searching for maxi dresses, and dresses are normally considered to be a exclusively feminine thing, but what is a dress except a very long tunic or robe? You can dress up a maxi dress to look like a mask outfit. You can do it. You have to pick the right one. I would say you're looking for neutral shaping, which probably means stretch fabric or something that's cut very loosely. You're looking for something that is not strongly feminine in its details. Color, less of an issue. I accept that some people don't want to wear pink when they're looking more masculine. Whatever you're comfortable with, but these come in a lot of colors. That has way too much going on in the front. I was excited because it was velvet, but no. Thinking no to most of these. The haltered neck, no. What's that print? Oh no. Oh, I was thinking it was just going to be a nice geometric print and we might be able to, but that is way too detailed. I would not wear that as a fantasy costume. Ooh, okay. I don't love the string back. You remember I was saying very neutral, very flowy, very loose. I don't think that has darts. I don't think that has anything shaping-wise going on. If you were comfortable wearing a pink-based outfit for like an elf or priest or other sort of flowy masculine outfit, that would be great. That would be perfect. You could also wear it just as like a feminine thing. No reason that couldn't be a woman's outfit as well. It is a bit much though. I don't know that I want to spend £30 on a dress. More shapes. Duster. Duster or duster coat. I normally just search duster because people don't always put the coat part in there. eBay periodically forgets your filters, so you have to tell it again every time you search for a new thing. So a duster coat is a lightweight coat. It's usually unlined. They're often designed to be worn open. It's a robe. It's a wizard's robe. When you get the right style, it's a wizard's robe. These are great examples. Loose fitting, very neutral, unlined so you can layer them up. Nice waterfall front detailing. This is nice. My personal experience of booho is not amazing quality. Long sleeved, it's long length, it's unlined, it's a robe. I wouldn't go for anything with these like notched suit lapel collars. Those are super modern. This is labeled as lingerie, but honestly, I 100% think your wizard can wear a lace robe cover up as part of the layers. That's going to be fine. Some of these are going to take some trawling. Prom dress. Again, nothing strapless. Little thin spaghetti straps, not great. What you're really looking for is something like this. Lots of coverage up at the shoulder. Even better would be if it had sleeves. You do get ones with sleeves. Floor length. They tend to be made of a more luxurious fabric, often multiple layers of fabric, and that can create a very luxury look. Even if you put like another top on top and hide the top part completely, so you can only see the skirt, it looks like you have a very luxurious skirt. They do tend to be quite structured. What you can do is look for ones that are made with stretchy fabric. If you do have a bust that you'd like to be supported, oftentimes one of these more structured evening dresses will do that for you, and then everyone's winning. Avoid anything asymmetric unless that works for the LARP you're going to. Again, it looks kind of modern. This is at £9. Oh, it's got a reserve on it. I don't like reserves. I like the ombre on this dress, but I don't like the top, and I don't like when people put auctions on with reserves. This is kind of wild. I think the shape is good, but I don't necessarily like the fabric. Oh my goodness. Ah, it's strapless, but the skirt is so good. I could make that work. I could fix that. I could fix the strapless thing. It's got a lot of bust shaving though. But the skirt is so good. So this section is entitled Can You Tell I Was Writing the Costume Brief for a Regency Game? I kind of love this dress. Obviously it's not looking its best, and it's got bones in these channels here, which are, well, there's nothing going on there. It's got the empire waist, it's a little fuller at the back, it's got sleeves, which is kind of incredible. The neckline's not too bad, Regency speaking. This is super easy to dress up. Probably I'd wear a wig, don't have to. Necklace, gloves, shawl. Actually, can we do that? Let's do that. Okay, so not necessarily the best colors, but like I just grabbed the first thing I could find. Immediately, this looks put together. It looks kind of historical. These are Halloween shop lace gloves. These, I don't even remember. I think I got them off a market stall. They are real pearls. You don't need real pearls. Get a long string of pearls if you do femme expressions of any era. A long string of pearls will stand you in great stead. They don't even need to be real. And then I pick up shawls wherever I find them because they're extremely useful. Again, this isn't anything special. It's just some, I think it came out of a subscription box. And then all you need is shoes, and like I would just wear ballet flats with this. Voila, historical outfit. You might be going, oh, this is a bit Barbie pink for me. Hold on, I got more. So this is dress number 2. Would be better without the binder underneath, would be better if the bust fit me a little better, but it doesn't, and it's okay. This one, if I was going to change anything, I would maybe get rid of these roses at the back. They are extremely 80s. But again, it's got the high waist, it's got the flared skirt, it's got little sleeves. This is a perfectly plausible Regency dress. As such, I suspect it could also get away with a bunch of other historical eras too. You could use it as a basis for a whole bunch of stuff. You could also use it as a formal dress for the 1930s, this would pass for. The 1980s, obviously, which is when it's actually from. Lots of options here, lots of options. I've got one more. So this is an interesting one because I think if I asked you straight off the bat which of these dresses is the fanciest, you wouldn't necessarily pick this one, right? It's a bit shorter. It doesn't fit me as well. It's more low cut, which can go either way, but it has got the embroidery. Also, this one is silk, whereas the other two are not. In general, people's perception of their ability to identify fabrics on sight is considerably higher than their actual ability to identify fabrics on sight. I do not think people would look at this dress, which is made of this like crinkly gauze top layer, and go, that's an expensive silk dress. I just don't think they would. Having said that, it is a lovely dress. Again, I've got it for Regency reasons. It's got the high waist, it's got the low cut neckline, it's got the little puffed sleeves. Would be perfect. But I've just given you 3 Regency dresses in a row, so why don't we look if we can dress this up in a slightly different way. I think the crown is cheating a little bit, but you know, we're gonna go with it. This is an overdress that I have. It is from that one Angela Clayton pattern that we're all obsessed with. This crown is from Taobao? If I can remember the brand, I will put it on the screen. This crown is not complicated. It's literally mounted on a headband. It's just got a bunch of stuff sewn onto it. It's got the veil, which is kind of amazing. This is for sure a different look, but I don't know if we've quite gotten away from Regency entirely. So let's try one more. So this one, I think I could fine tune a bit. I think it needs a little bit more work. I kind of grabbed the nearest things I could find, but this is a coat that I made from the Hobbit patterns that Simplicity did. And then I just grabbed the blue surcoat that I wear for frickin' everything because it's incredibly useful. And because this dress, as it turns out, is navy and not black, as I originally assumed. The things you learn. I feel like if you could get it to fit you, which admittedly is not always a given with women's sizing, and you had like a high collared shirt in here, you could make this a more mask outfit. It would be like a mask elf outfit with the robes on top, covering up the little puffy sleeves. Can't necessarily see that it's got the fitted empire waist. I don't think this needs to be a dress all of the time. I'm just saying, I think we could make this work. So same idea, same theme. You can also look for bridesmaid's dress. These tend to be a little bit pricier and more boring in color, but same idea. Nothing strapless, not really spaghetti straps, not asymmetrical. You're looking for floor length, shoulder coverage, ideally sleeves. And if you're wanting it to look more masculine, you're looking for something that is stretchy or very neutral in the shaping. This would be a completely reasonable choice, I think, for a more feminine fantasy costume with the right accessories on that. That's gonna look great. Ooh. So do you see how this one looks like it's hanging fairly square on the mannequin? It's not heavily structured around the chest area. That's actually good if you want something that de-emphasizes that part of your body. Deep V's don't tend to work quite as well as a masculine look. You can make it work if you don't want to feel like you're wearing a dress. Go for a higher or a scoop neckline. This is from Shein, so like I don't recommend you buy it. No, I don't think you should even look at that one. It kind of looks horrible even in the photos. So this one's a little bit on the pricey side, but it's got a shirred back, so it's gonna fit really comfy. You can also use the same rules looking for ball gown. This one I find doesn't come up so much. People are way less likely to use this as a search term. I don't understand why, because to me there's a distinct difference between like a maxi dress and a ball gown. So you've got immediately a lot of detail, a lot of interest going on. I like that neckline, more of a scoop. So I don't think this is unshaped, but it doesn't look like it has darts. Maybe I'd risk that one. If it was my size, it kind of is my size, but I would risk that one not looking that weird on a flatter figure. I think I'd try that. The final search term in this category is the big one. This will be expensive and you will have to trawl to find, but you can occasionally find stuff that you're like, oh my goodness, wedding dress. What I always feel I'm kind of looking for when I search for wedding dress is when people have bought wish.com wedding dresses and they're not good, but they're good enough to wear into a field. Obvious caveat that wedding dresses are usually very expensive. They're usually longer than floor length. They're almost always white. You do also find dresses to wear to weddings, which I really wish people would filter separately. But there you go. Look at that draper's back. This is begging to be turned into an elf costume. £45 is a lot. If you wanted something that looked luxurious and that, it cost way more than £45 new, I can guarantee it. So this one you've actually seen before in another video, so I'm not going to spend too long on it. It's not the most versatile piece in the world. Again, I think you could put like an overdress or a robe over it. I think that would be very effective. I don't really have anything in the right color scheme. Equally, I think you could just add like fairy wings. It's backless, so if you wanted to wear, you know, like a corset underneath and shove them down the back, you could do that. I think if you put like a pink corset or a gold corset under this, no one would know it wasn't part of the dress. This is very book talk fantasy ball, mostly including it to show off the fact that this dress was £20. I've seen a lot of people who are like, I would love to go to the book talk fantasy balls, but A, I can't get tickets because have you tried getting tickets for those things? But B, like, what would I wear? You can just get stuff. You can just find beautiful things secondhand, often for not very much money. There you go. Is it in perfect condition? No, but like, how many times am I going to wear this in my life? So this is obviously a very extreme example, but do you know how many like open fronted coats I have? It's high collared, it's got a long skirt, so it's like the most neutral base layer for anything I want to throw on top. And that might be like this coat, or like, look at this. This is a quilted pleather jerkin kind of thing. It's supposed to lace up the front, and you know, I could lace it up. Do I look like I should be working in a blacksmith's? Even though this is satin? Yes I do. Or yeah, hang on, I can do another one. Is my answer to literally every costume I ever make wear a surcoat? Yes, but also tell me I don't look like an elf prince right now. I can't actually find, long story, my workroom really needs organizing, but I can't actually find my wrapping gown, which I think would be absolutely perfect on top of this. What I do have though, so this is another eBay find, this long sleeveless waistcoat, for those of you who are going like, but I can't make my own surcoats. Ask me nicely if you'd like me to make a video about making surcoats, because they're so easy and work for basically every costume. But maybe you can't or don't want to make your own surcoats. I found this on eBay immediately. General Organa. This dress is so versatile, I can take it almost immediately into sci-fi with the right accessories. I in fact wore this to a science fiction convention last year, but I also used the other really nice thing about having a neutral classic high coverage undergarment is that you can then let things like coats shine. Maybe like me, you've made a million coats and you need something to put under them, or maybe you just find like this incredible shot pink and purple evening coat on eBay. I could 100% wear this with the pink Regency dress. That would work. This kind of coat as well, I think, because of the notched lapels are kind of recent historically. It depends on what the kind of fantasy vibe is, whether I think that this would work, but I think the kind of fantasy vibe where I wouldn't be worried about wearing a notched collar is the same where I wouldn't be worried about wearing pink and purple shot fabric. You could be an elf in this coat. I could very easily take this to Deep Space Nine, or what's the world Critical Role is set in called? I don't know. Fantasy with a sort of fun, punky vibe. This could be an elf in the right setting. You feel where I'm going with this. Anyway, you're probably sick of this dress, so like, let's try something else on. This dress, similar vibe, not quite the same. Whereas the previous dress, I think, looks very universal by having a lot of details that work for a lot of eras, like the high collar, or the sash waist, or the slight blouse on front. This, I think, works by being extremely neutral. On the face of it, this is a really modern dress. This kind of bloused crossover front is done with some quite modern cutting. It doesn't like that I'm wearing clothes underneath it, this one. It's kind of tight on the hips as well, as you may notice. We'll make it work. Very neutral neck, very neutral sleeves, very full coverage. We can do a lot with this. For example, here it is with the coat. It's very glam. It's very rich, very formal parties. Not necessarily super fantasy or historical. Maybe a little bit cyberpunk, maybe a little bit sci-fi. You feel where I'm going? Whereas I think if we used a different coat, I'm not wearing this properly. This is a coat. I'm just draping it around my shoulders. This is a vintage coat and the dress is not. But tell me that with the right hair and makeup, I would not look like a 30s starlet. Do you feel the vibe? We could even do 40s like this. I could do 40s like this. I could do film noir. Slightly different vibe, not quite Leia Organa. Potentially, what's her name from Andor, the politician? You know who I mean. Equally, if I showed up in the back of a crowd scene in Voyager like this, no one would question it. I think people tend to think of neutrals as like black and white and maybe grey. You have much more scope in what counts as a neutral. So this is gold, and it's not going to be a neutral in all scenarios. Colours like gold, even though ostensibly it's yellow, it's actually going to go with way more colours than you think. This would look great with green, this would look great with purple, or in this case, it's, this is a bluey green. Do you see how much it pops? Don't be afraid to expand your idea of what counts as a neutral base layer. You have a lot more colours than black and white, and maybe brown, which I think is what people tend to default to. That if I want something to be super versatile and used with lots and lots of different colours and things, it's got to be black, white, or brown. Consider gold. 10 out of 10, no notes. I saw this and I had to have it. Couple things you can do here. Obviously, you could make this sci-fi with just a couple of accessories. You could wear this in a sci-fi setting and it would look fine. You could wear this in like a cyberpunk with some crazy makeup. That would work really well. But also, I feel like I need a little bit of a base layer. Like if I had something with sleeves on under, I'm not immediately imagining something that I have right on hand that has sleeves, but long sleeves under this and maybe another layer on top. Okay, so the colors don't necessarily work, right? This is just the thing that I had to hand. I'm an elf. I'm a fairy. Choose your poison. I even think you could put... Actually, I'm going to try it. It's okay. It's not quite the right thing, but like you can see the basic idea, right? I'm ready for battle, but I'm also extra. To be honest, the only thing that I would probably make different about this is that I would open up the other front seam to the same length, possibly even higher, and just always wear it over trousers or another skirt. Like that's the only change. The neckline's fine. The sleeves are amazing. The potentials are endless. So for the next couple of dresses, I've chucked on an undershirt. This was sold as a beach cover-up, and I have indeed worn it as a beach cover-up. It also just works really well as an undershirt. More conventional dresses can also work as the basis for fantasy outfits, and that's what I'm going to show you next. I think if I hadn't put the shirt under it, this would be like the most generic modern red dress that you could possibly imagine. But I also think that with a couple of accessories, all of a sudden this is going to look at least plausible. Bear with me. Okay, so the colors are not quite what I would want, but if I had an undershirt that maybe matched a little bit better and wasn't blue. The only robe I could find on short notice was this one. I could have a better one. I'm now just like, do I need a million really simple T-shaped robes to just chuck on top of stuff? Obviously, yes. These robes are super easy to make. There's one example in my tunic video of how you can just make something really, really simple. I would maybe not pick an organza one. I would pick something with substance. You could get a dressing gown if it was the right dressing gown. This is just, I found it in a charity shop. Like you get them everywhere. Just these really simple, cheap fake fur stoles. They're not hard to find. Tiara's obviously an investment, but once you have a tiara, you start looking for reasons to wear a tiara. Equally, this is a very like dressed up formal version. It's a simple dress with straps. You could take it in a very different direction. So again, the colors are not right because I have grabbed what I had to hand, not thought about it for more than 3 seconds. Functionally, the difference between a kind of dress like this and a kirtle is not that much. So you can basically do any kind of default fantasy femme outfit with a simple strappy long dress. You're looking at the formal dresses because they tend to be floor length. That's the main thing that's going on here. It does unfortunately mean that they tend to be a little bit more expensive. In the same vein, I'm not going to go through the whole thing again with this one, but this dress does a very similar thing. It is a little bit dressier because the fabric is like a metallic purple, but it's got a little bit more in the skirt and it's got joined on straps instead of an all-in-one piece, which I think with the blouse underneath, it just looks even more like kirtle-esque. This I would use as a basis for a slightly fancier, generic fantasy outfit, but I think it would do a lot of the same things. You can see the vibe we're going for here. You can see what we could do. We could put the apron on it. I could wear a surcoat or a robe over it. Honestly, could layer another skirt on top and just have the bodice effect. Don't knock having extra layers in a field, you know? So another thing that I think you find a lot of and don't always immediately look like they're going to be the most useful are like the very generic bridesmaids dresses. This is one example. I've got another one that I'll try on in just a second. In general, I think as long as it's got some sort of shoulder covering, we can work with this. This one, for example, is a great candidate for going with the robe. I think ideally what I would like to do is put a few more robe layers on this. Potentially even give it like a belt with a belt pennant, something that goes down the front. I wonder if I can like fake that somehow. Hold on. Okay, ignore that this is a random strip of fabric that still has the remnant tag on it. The belt's not maybe sitting quite where no, it's okay. It's okay. It's not the right belt for this. Anyway, maybe longer, but just see where I'm going. This took like 20 seconds. It's a piece of fabric tucked into a belt. With a more substantial, maybe long-sleeved robe under this top one, you wouldn't even see the back of the belt. Don't look at the back of the belt. Very quickly, this this just becomes a generic, long, floaty garment. Which means, one, I think you can dress it a bit more mask. Not super mask, but you can balance it a little bit further the other way. Buying purpose-made LARP robes probably aren't going to be made of this sort of multi-layer floaty material, and also are going to be way more expensive than the, what, £7 I paid for this dress. This one, on the other hand, while it is also fulfilling the brief of being a very cheap, very generic bridesmaidy dress made of a multi-layered floaty kind of pastel fabric, this one looks way more feminine. And the reasons for this would maybe not be immediately apparent if you didn't understand how clothing was constructed, but this dress has boning in the bust line and shirring in the back, which means it's stretchy to get on and off, but it also means that it is pulling it tight against your body. This means it looks more feminine. If you want a generic pastel-coloured bridesmaid's dress made of a floaty, lightweight fabric that you can plausibly pass off as like a more mask, elf, or noble costume, you are looking for ones that do not have super fitting details, do not have elastic in them to pull them tight against your body, and do not have boning. Usually I would remove the boning because I don't have anything here. If there's boning built in, it normally makes a gap and just looks really weird because I don't fill it out. I actually can't because this gathered top layer is not attached to the boned underlayer, and as such, without the boning, the satin underneath will just collapse. I could probably figure that out if I cared. Like, I could hand sew it in place, and that I don't care enough. I'm not going to wear this enough times. But we've got it. It's here. What can we do with it? Wait, right here. This outfit's made a reappearance. Like, look at this. This, I think, is a really great option for maybe if you've made one outfit that's like really, really good and you want more versatility in that outfit. One, always, if you have the option, like make the overdress and the underdress separate. Then one, you can wear the underdress on its own with other outfits. You can make other overdresses to go over that one underdress, and you don't have to keep making boring underdresses. But also, if you have a nice overdress, you can buy a £7 bridesmaid's dress off eBay, and voila, you now have a whole second outfit that looks kind of different but also the same, and you don't need to wear the same outfit multiple days running when it's getting sweaty and weird. Work smarter, not harder. Okay, so you're going to have to bear with me on the next one because you have to filter, but we're going to look at bodice and corset. Now, immediately, a whole bunch of you are going to tell me that you can't wear corsets at XYZ LARP. You're not looking for Victorian corsets. You are not looking for structured undergarments. You are looking for people who do not know what a corset is and have listed their vaguely Ren Faire looking bodices as corsets. That's what you're looking for. So bodice is a bit hit and miss because obviously it brings up a whole bunch of dresses. It does also bring up stuff like this. Look, it's labeled as a corset. This, it's goth gear, but you could wear it to a LARP. Interesting. Not really sure how I feel about that one, but I guess technically fills the brief. So that's technically a dress. It's boned and everything. That's got the right. You could cut that skirt off. This is perfect. 100%. No changes needed. You can even, if you're feeling ambitious, try corset top, which tends to give you more of the outerwear fun garments and less of the underwear fun garments. That is a corsety dress. I don't like the print on that, but the idea's right. That one's probably fine. It's not displayed very well. I think that one's probably fine. I would like something with some lacing maybe. That's pretty good. And by pretty good, I mean it looks like horrible quality, but the shape is right. That could work. That could also work. Zip's a bit prominent in that one. Shape's right. Not a fan of the print. That looks spot on. Perfect. Velvet cropped, which longer would be nice, but you take what you can get. I think I literally have that top. It broke immediately. That would be fine. That would probably be okay. I don't love it because of the flowers, but it would be okay. That would be fine. That would probably be fine. This one makes me feel a million years old, but would be fine. That's made of pleather, but not inherently like bad. This I think would be okay. Yeah, this would be okay. This is character outfit number 2, and this time I've gone for a summery, light cottagecore Ren Faire maiden kind of look, although I think similar shapes with a different colour story could easily go more hobbit, or tavern maid, or even fairy. This top you'll see a bit better later in the video. I think it was around £4 and it's surprisingly thick and heavy. The bodice was £1.50 and after like 4 wears the zip broke, so now I have to fix that, but it still just about does the job. The skirt is from a thrift shop and was £5 at most. The apron is from a subscription box, so probably the most expensive part of the outfit, to be honest. Then I've got the same ballet flats from Amazon, a cheap bandana stuffed in one pocket. The headband and bracelets were from the sale section at Claire's years ago. The belt pouch I made, there's a video for that, and the belt itself I think I got 8 belts for like £1.50. It was great. Probably the most expensive thing in this outfit is the earrings, which were about £20 from an artisan jewellery maker, but from this distance you can't even see them. You could absolutely swap them out for second-hand options. Now let's see what other gems you can find on the internet. Next up in the specific items, you have cape and cloak. Given how much people whinge that capes and cloaks aren't fashionable anymore and people don't wear them, you find a lot. So here's a question for you all. When I say cape or cloak, do you think that that garment has sleeves? Or do you think that it can have sleeves but also cannot? Because to me, those things mean does not have sleeves at all. Ever. And that is not how these things are usually described. That's a perfectly good cloak. It's got a zip down the front. I'd maybe do something about the zip, but for £10 I could do something about the zip. That doesn't have a zip, that has buttons and is beautifully lined. Bit on the pricier side, but it's ex-theatre, so it's durably made. That looks insubstantial, but it is very cute. That would be entirely reasonable. That's a bit on the pricier side, but it is black velvet. Honestly, I'm tempted by that. That's leather. You know, I said if you ever see something and you're like, that's absolutely wild, probably a good LARP costume. I might keep an eye on that. It's got pom-poms on it, more of a wrap than a cape, I think, but perfectly fine. That would be perfectly fine. That is a poncho. That is a suede poncho. I'm gonna just say maybe not the suede poncho with the fringe. That's a cape, perfectly reasonable. That's a cape, perfectly reasonable. That's vintage. You can make your own decision on that. That is described as a cloak when it is clearly a coat. Still fine. You could still wear that for LARP. That's £125, which is a shame because it's quite nice. This looks like it's fancy dress, but still, there's a time and a place. That's super expensive, which is a shame because it's lovely. That's also super expensive. That is the downside of cloaks, is that the really nice ones do tend to be on the pricier side, but not always. That would be fine. It's not really a cape, but it would read like a cape and it'd be a little bit more practical. That's an actual cape. That's an actual cape, and it is got a high wool percentage. That's like a cute short retro cape. Maybe not what I would go for LARP, but your mileage may vary. That is an actual cape. It's a bit on the pricey side. Let's try cloak. That claims to be reversible. Let's have a look. Does also look to be more... Oh no, it is a cape. Interesting. That is gorgeous, but not what we're looking for, and it's also £100. This is fun. A little bit pricey, but I think if you want a cloak, it's going to be one of the more expensive things in your wardrobe. Look out, pick one, pick well. Sleeveless cloak. To me, that's just a given, but I want to know who is out there believing that cloaks should have sleeves. That is a cloak. It is expensive. That is a cloak. It is expensive. That is a very nice cloak. It is very expensive. That's Laura Ashley, so just forget about it. That is not what we're looking for, but it's awesome. Okay, I need you all to just do me a favour and not pay any attention to the rapidly changing lighting conditions. I didn't film this over multiple days, what do you mean? We're going to go through a bunch of words that are related in how they are spelt, not what kind of garment they are. So the first thing is you can just look for a wrap. While we're on the subject of cloaks and capes, a wrap is like a super lightweight shawl. So you'll get very simple ones like this that are just black. This says it's pure wool. It's got some colour blocking, which I don't love, but the colour blocking is good. Actually, is it colour blocked or is it reversible? In the wrap section, you're basically going to find a combination of really big shawls and then sort of drapey, cardigan, capey, cloaky, poncho-y things. You're also going to find clothes that wrap. So we can also look at wrap skirts. and wrap dresses. This is a great example of what I'm talking about. Wrap skirts and wrap dresses are one of the only things where I would say you can buy too small for you. And the reason I say that is because something like this that just fastens with, it's got a button, we would ignore that button. You might have to move a tie. For a lot of them, you don't even need to do that. But the nice thing about it being a wrap is that if you're not intending to wear it as a main garment, if you're willing to wear it less wrapped, so more like a war skirt or a surcoat, you can wear a wrap garment that is too small for you and it's just an extra layer rather than being the main thing that you're relying on for modesty. This, perfect. It's faux leather. It's got a big sash to tie it together, so you could just let that out. I would just ignore the buttons or even take them off if they're annoying you. You could put that on top of armor. You could use it as part of your armor. You could decorate it. That would be perfect. Wrap dresses, I think, are a little bit harder to work with. Obvious problem that you get a lot that are just not suitable because they're patterned or very complex. This one, I think, is a good example of what I mean. Solid color, very simple details, little grown on sleeve. That is something that you could wear either open or tied together very loosely as more of a robe or a surcoat over other layers. It's £1.75 plus postage. You literally couldn't buy fabric for that much. On a similar theme, the next garment specific term we're going to look at is cover up. Sometimes also beach cover up gets you what you're looking for. You're going to get a lot of stuff that is very patterned and is not entirely suitable, but you're also going to get things like this. This has got the kind of pattern that I think that you might get away with depending, unlike the rainbow animal print, which I would say is almost never suitable for a fantasy LARP. This might be suitable for your fantasy LARP. You could chuck this on over armor or over another dress. It's a nice little extra layer. This gradient might work, loose, floaty, layer it over a tunic and leggings and all of a sudden you look fancy. You also get some things like this, which are basically very thin tunics, very thin, very simply constructed, loose fitting tunics. These make great undershirts, or even, you know, your main shirt in really hot weather. Cover-ups in general tend to be super unfitted, which means that it doesn't matter what shape your body is, even though they're designed for women, they're not cut to a curvy shape necessarily. One black, one white, size 18, so on the bigger side. Super simple, basically no shaping. Those are going to work for so many situations. Just throw them on over a long sleeve top and leggings and belt them and you look better immediately. So here's a fun one, coatigan. It's like a cardigan, but a coat. Kind of like a duster, this will get you lots of simple unlined outer garments. Unlike duster, they tend to be made of either knitted fabric or like a warm woolly fabric. Again, kind of like the duster, I would say avoid anything with notched lapels or anything that looks too modern, has a zip, has big buttons. But you also get stuff like this. This one might be a knit. It's a very dense knit. That's a good example of an acceptable pattern for fantasy, I think. It's £3.50. This one is denim and look at it, completely acceptable. I actually really wish that was in my size. I would 100% wear that. This one would probably be fine. I love that it's got nice big pockets. You'd need to do a little bit of styling. This one would work. This one would be great. Oh, it's got that beautiful back detail. Yeah, that would be amazing. Basically, avoid anything that looks like a blazer or that you would wear it with pearls and go for something that looks more like a robe. So I think we should just talk outerwear for a minute, because base layers is all well and good, but people I think often then worry about what goes on top. This was, I believe, advertised as a coatigan. It is basically a heavy cardigan. It's got pockets. Not great pockets, it's got to be said, but it has got some pockets. Does the fringe on the sleeves drive me absolutely mental? Yes. But it's got this big Shawly collar. It's got a really interesting woven texture. Doesn't look historical, but it also doesn't look modern, if you see what I mean. It's kind of just ambiguous. It's like you're wearing a blanket. I would probably want to dress this up a bit, but equally, if I felt like my base costume read sufficiently fantasy and I just threw this on top and it, like, the colours went, I don't think it would detract from that. And it is a surprisingly nice warmth layer. It's not like a full coat. Outside LARP costumes in particular can often be quite warm, and you just need like one extra layer for late at night around the campfire. This does really nicely. This is like the flip side to that. This is a 100% wool cardigan. I can't quite explain it, but something about this makes me think Tudor waistcoat. Do you see it? Do you feel it? Is it just me? Two things I really like about this. It's 100% wool, so it is super cozy. Washing is a problem, but it's an outer layer, so I just don't do that very often. But the other thing that I love about it is that there's no closures. There's no hardware. There's nothing to date it, which I think means I feel like it looks plausible in most kind of fantasy or historical settings. If you were wearing this with a pseudo Hobbit outfit, it would look okay. If you were wearing this with like a Renaissance outfit, it would look okay. If you were wearing this with like some drapey layers under it or over it and it's like an elf thing, it would look okay. It's not a showstopper, but it's going to keep you warm and it's not going to detract from the other things you are wearing. So we mentioned that you do occasionally get men's clothing that can work. One thing that's worth looking out for, the search term I usually use is henley. You get all kinds of stuff, but what you're looking for is something like this, what you might also call a grandpa. They tend to be robust t-shirt material with this neutral little button-up neck. You can also sometimes find suitable waistcoats. Emphasis on the sometimes. So if you're going for like a Hobbit look, something classic like this maybe, this would be great. That I think might be good. That's very Hobbit. I tend to go for collarless waistcoats over waistcoats with notched collars because again, that's just a bit more modern. Those notched lapels are really date things in the wrong direction, if you know what I mean. The other thing, so there's not like a good way of narrowing down this section. I think jackets are hugely underrated as a costume piece because it's not a coat, but it is going to keep you warm. It is designed as an outerwear layer, and especially if you pick a interesting or unique looking jacket, then you can swap out what you're wearing under it and you're always going to have a consistent character look. The problem is that you get loads of jackets that are way too modern and just not suitable at all. When you do occasionally find a jacket that is suitable, denim, we've got like a parka, we've got that would be a completely reasonable jacket. It's more of a drape, it's unlined, it's lighter weight, but also I'm going to spend all this time hunting for one jacket to show you what I mean, because we've done lots of the drapey robe shapes, but you can also go for something that's shaped a bit more like a doublet, which I am of course not immediately finding anything, but that's okay. So what we haven't talked about yet is using modifier words. There are extra words that you can either search for on their own or in conjunction with a shape word. So you can, instead of just searching for a jacket, you can search for a velvet jacket, or you can just search velvet on its own. Immediately, I'm seeing more things that I think I would wear to a LARP. And that, in fact, is a great example of what I mean when I say a jacket that could work as a doublet. It's got a little stand collar, it's got buttons, but that's okay. Long sleeves, bit of detail, and it's black velvet, which is never a bad idea. That would work, I would wear that. That's kind of amazing. I don't know that I would wear it, but someone should. A lot of these would work fine for hobbity looks. That I would wear maybe with some modifications. I'd wear that to a LARP. Might wear that. Definitely would wear that. Probably would wear that. Definitely. Yeah, you know what? 100%. That one would be fine. Bit modern, more of a bomber. Notched lapels lapels, you know how I feel about notched lapels. Do you see what I mean? Immediately, it's narrowed the field a lot. So you can just search velvet. Velvet is a great fabric because it's not cheap, but it's not super expensive. It's the velvet that you get tops made out of is usually stretchy, so it's going to fit most people and it's not got a lot of shaping in it. And it looks luxurious and historical. Just searching velvet, that top would work. That top would probably work. You'd want to wear it with other stuff. That top would work. We've got 2 long dresses, or you could wear them as robes. Those would be great in LARP. You do have to look out for, there's a brand called Mint Velvet that is quite modern and trendy. That top would work. That top would work. That top would work. That would 100% work. Yes, probably. Yes. Maybe not. Yes. 100%. Maybe. Yes. Yes, I'd wear that with a long skirt. Yes, I'd wear that. I could probably make that one work. This is not filtered to UK only, but absolutely gorgeous 100% is £50. Velvet is your friend. I think stretch velvet, poly velvet gets a really bad reputation, and this is because it is a nightmare to sew. However, if someone else has sewn it for you, you now have velvet that you can just wear. I generally really struggle to find LARP suitable trousers, and I don't have a lot of skirts off eBay because I make my own. However, I have recently discovered velvet lounge pants. They're comfy and they look fancy. Like, these literally cost me about £2 and I could sleep in them, and no one is going to look at these and go, that doesn't look appropriate for a LARP field, because they're black velvet. Life-changing. I'm now just going to cycle through like a million velvet tops to show off that basically a velvet top or a velvet dress is never a bad choice. It's never a bad thing to pick up. It's never the wrong thing. Let me show you what I've got. This is probably one of the quirkier ones that I got. Also, I've taken the joggers off because black on black does not read. I think this is intended to be like a little black dress for going out in, but what it is tunic leg. It does ride up if I move around a lot, but also if I was wearing it over trousers, that doesn't matter. And also, have you seen these sleeves? Like, look at this cool slashed sleeve detail. I could wear like a long sleeved red tunic under it, or a different color, or any color I wanted. I could even wear like a blousey top and it would poke through the slit and it would look so historical. Mythalon charges like 30 quid for slashed sleeve tops. This was not a lot of money on eBay. Also, because it's poly velvet, it's warm. Also have. So at some point these were in fashion and I'm now on a quest to collect them in basically any color I can. So I have this one and I have another one that I'll show you in a sec. Stretch velvet A-line mini dress. The previous one you may have seen was kind of fitted. It was quite snug. It had a bunch of seams to it. These are super loose. They're kind of short, right? I would not wear this without trousers underneath, but because I want it to be a tunic, doesn't matter. I've seen a couple with like little stand collars. Most of them don't. Most of them just have like a t-shirt collar. Fine, perfect, completely neutral. Sleeves. So this one goes to just below my elbow. I think my blue one is a little bit shorter. I'll try the blue one on so I can show you. No, I completely lie. This may in fact be the exact same dress, just in 2 different colors. And if it comes in any other colors, I will also buy those because these are so useful. One of the things I really like about them is because they are stretch velvet, there's basically no shaping, which means there's no bust shaping, which means that if I want to put a belt on this and wear it as like a mask tunic, I can just do that. Also, they're really cheap. Like, they're not very expensive at all. And if you're in a system where they're like, oh, to portray an upper class character, wear fancier clothing. Velvet, fancy. Actual cost of garment, very cheap. And honestly, I wear these all the time as just like part of my regular wardrobe. You can also tuck them into things if you just want the top. The sleeves are a slightly annoying length, I'll give you that, but the trade-off here is incredible. Still on the topic of velvet, briefly, this top, I was looking to expand outside of just like black velvet to some other kinds of velvet. Pink was maybe not what I had in mind. I love that it has the slightly wider sleeves. I love that it has the high collar. This is going to be great for layering under things. For example, things like the next thing I want to show you. So this is a silver velvet skater dress. dress. And you're going to look at this and go, Ash, that is incredibly modern. In what universe would a crushed stretch velvet skater dress be appropriate in a fantasy setting? Hang on, I'll put it on front ways round so you can see why I don't like it so much that way. So to be clear, this would work for what I'm imagining. However, it does have quite pointy bust darts in it. I don't love that. What I tend to do with this is I wear it backwards. I want you to imagine I'm wearing like a cloak and maybe a sword on my hip. Do you see the vision? Do you see the fantasy? Well, it's basically a surcoat. This shape I actually quite like because it's not hugely dissimilar from, you get like Tudor jackets, honestly look very much like this. It lets you turn a waist length top or a hip length top into a tunic top. Now, as you can probably tell, I would struggle to wear this as a dress because I'm tall, and when you get things that fit me in the waist, they tend to be really short for some reason. But these little skater dresses can really easily become these like very nightcore, Romeo core vibes. And it being made of the stretch velvet is great because it's really cozy, it's really comfortable, it's really easy to move in. It just turns leggings and a shirt into like a Renaissance prince. However, man cannot live on velvet alone, so what else do we have? So in terms of other modifier words that work well also as search terms on their own term, linen is good. You do also get men's linen shirts sometimes that are sometimes suitable. Yes, probably figure out a way to make pink cropped linen shorts work. That top, yes. That top, probably. That tunic style dress, 100%. Maybe as a base layer, sure. Yes, absolutely. This linen dress, absolutely. Blouse, 100%. That one I think would look lovely. Linen trousers, super nice. Linen stuff tends to be very simple in its lines because of the kind of people who want to buy linen, which is objectively a more expensive fabric. I think linen is usually a pretty good search term. Embroidered. I get very carried away searching for embroidered things. I tend not to go for the embroidery anglaise, the lace cutwork sort of thing. Having said that, that is very cute. That top I would wear to a LARP. This top I'd probably wear to a LARP. Maybe. Not sure how I feel about that one. This one, yes, absolutely. This one, probably. This one, definitely. Yes. Cute waistcoat, lovely embroidered peasanty blouse, yes. Might stickler from this one just because it's like mesh, but for someone that's gonna work, I think. You often get things with this nice embroidered yoke or just an embroidered bit at the front, which is great because it means you can wear another layer, just have some embroidery showing through. This long top would be great. Even this sort of sheer thing would work for the right character. You get a lot of loose, floaty blouses, often work great also as tunics because they're so loose fitting. Sometimes they're not shaped, sometimes they are, but sometimes you get things that functionally, it doesn't matter what shape of body that they're on. Some of the more formal dresses I'm going to wear have quite plunging necklines, and that's not always what you want, but also they can be quite close fitting, so filling that in is kind of tricky. What I have discovered is I wear a lot of like tank tops under things anyway, and you can get fancy tank tops. That's basically where I'm going with this, fancy tank tops. So this one is practically like a bralette. It's very cropped. It's not actually shaped. You don't have to have breasts to wear this top. It just might feel a bit weird if you don't, because it is heavily bra coded. But you can see how, you know, you might not want to wear gowny over thing with a long sleeve top all the time. Maybe you want a more summery outfit, but this cuts so low, you need to fill that in. This has some nice embroidery on it. It looks very, I don't want to say historical, because I think that embroidered clothing is not actually that historical, but at the same time it gives that vibe. I think it's really important to remember that a lot of what we think fantasy costumes look like is based on European folk costume, and that does involve often a lot of embroidery and decorative weaving and things like that. And so bringing stuff in, such as this otherwise super super modern looking tank top, which can just fill in a little gap, make it look a little bit less scandalous, a little bit more covered, but for maybe more of a summer vibe. Similarly, hold on, there's basically nothing to this tank top. I wouldn't even wear it on its own because it's so thin, but it's got the embroidery on it. It's got a little bit of detail, and if I was going to be wearing a couple of, maybe I have like a cardigan and in fact I've got a cardigan. I don't love this for fantasy outfits because the zips and that make it look quite modern, but for a very quick example, so you throw this on and then maybe we put another layer on top of that, you know, and all of a sudden this tank top's not doing very much, but when you can see it, it's a little bit interesting. When you can catch a glimpse of like the underlayers, they've got some embroidery on it. It's got like a design. It doesn't look modern. Like this is genuinely, it's embroidered and it's got that very geometric shape that like folk embroidery can have. It's got that little bit of interest. It looks more historical, more fantasy than wearing a plain tank top. On a super hot summer event, you might want a base layer that is really lightweight. It's just a nice option to have in the wardrobe, you know. I realize that like the colors here are not going, but it gives you an idea of the kind of outfit where you'd have layered up a couple of outer things and then realize that actually you do need a base layer shirt underneath. Now we get into the realm less of tunics and more of blouses, and I think no one is surprised that those peasanty off the shoulder milkmaidy blouses work for fantasy costumes, but they work for fantasy costumes. I'm not a big fan of that style in general, so I don't have a lot, and when I do get things, they tend to be like this one where it's got other things going on. Look at these enormous embroidered sleeves, right? Like, who wouldn't want this? The really cool thing about tops like this is that you can leave them loose, you can also just belt them, you can tuck them into your skirt. That all looks great. This sort of like open shoulder neckline tends to be more feminine coded, but there's absolutely no reason you couldn't incorporate this in a more mask outfit, in particular because they're so big and blousy. There's not any bust shaping, there's not any waist shaping. It's gonna be big and poofy no matter what you do, but you can also put things on top. So I don't love this one. It illustrates the point. It came as a set with a skirt. Can I find the skirt? Not at all. But you can wear these very blousy, peasanty shirts with a bodice, some stays, a waistcoat, and it's immediately going to give you that Hobbit, Ren Faire, tavern wench look. Equally, if you want to wear fewer separates and more pieces, you could try sort of a strappy dress over the top. Wool can be a bit hit and miss if you don't just want to get a whole bunch of cable knit jumpers. I find that it helps if you put some qualifiers on this. So let's say we want a wool skirt. That might work. That's very cute. Lots of checkered pleated ones. There you go. That's nice. That grey one would also be... Okay, they think it's brown. None of these are going to be showstoppers, but they are going to keep you warm. I will admit that I tend to look in the wool section often for jackets and cardigans and things that I intend to wear in winter. They're not always actually wool. Sometimes they just look like wool, but you've got to make a decision for yourself if that's good enough or not. Looking for jackets or shirts, sometimes military helps me out. If you want something with a lot of braid or detailing on it, sometimes even in velvet. These two here are great examples of military style jackets that I might wear with a later fantasy look. These two aren't bad. That's kind of fun, but it's a bit modern. You will get a combination of the more fantasy military style and then the more actual military style, which is these utility jackets. Obviously you don't want those. You want the braid and the stand collars. Another term that helps me out a bit is stand collar, which means narrow sticky up collar. So here you can see a lot of nice, relatively neutral shirts that have high collars that are not shirt collars. That sort of fold down shirt collar, quite modern. This sort of high, narrow stand collar, a little bit easier to pass off in a fantasy outfit. Not always perfect, but a little bit easier. Lace up is a really good search term for LARP kit. As long as you go into clothing, not shoes, you do get some more corsety things, but you also very quickly get trousers, tops, dresses with this sort of crisscross lace-up detail that so much LARP kit seems to have. If you are looking for floatier, lighter layers, festival can be quite fun. As with a lot of the categories, you're going to get a bunch of stuff that isn't suitable. You're going to get a bunch of stuff that might be. A lot of patchworky sort of colours, a lot of transparency. That one's quite cute. This would work, absolutely. That would work. That one would work. Got this lightweight midi wrap skirt, wrap cardigan. That one would work. This would be lovely. Sheer lightweight things that you can throw on. Again, you often get them described as beach cover-ups. Oh man, look at that. Absolutely beautiful. £45 though. When it comes to skirts, ruffle is good. Don't know why that's described as a ruffle skirt, but that you could wear that for a LARP. You could wear that for a LARP. That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. This brown skirt, this pink linen blend, A-line shape, little ruffle at the bottom. That'd be perfect. This is nice. I'd wear this to a LARP. I also quite like looking for a tier skirt. That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. These skirts where they have layers and layers of ruffles. Also great example of what I'm talking about. That'd be really nice. That looks super cute. This would work. This would be even better. That's perfect. Just a really basic piece. That one's silk, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend for your LARP kit. This looks great. Robe? Have I looked for a robe yet? You can look for robe. You're going to get a lot of dressing gowns. That's a satin dressing gown without an obvious collar. I think in the right settings that wouldn't look like a dressing gown, but a lot of them are just going to be dressing gowns. I mean, that's extremely expensive, but also beautiful. A really good example of how a dressing gown can not look like a dressing gown. I would say in general, look out for it being a fuzzy material or like a satin and avoid those, but other than that, have at. Welcome to character outfit number 3, the penultimate outfit and possibly my favourite. I wanted to try and demonstrate how to make the Tolkien elf / Grand High Mage look work, and I feel like I could lead a council like this no matter how rowdy it got, no issue. The top layer here is a vintage wool Howery jacket, which is not the easiest to find, but you could easily substitute another loose jacket or cardigan for a similar look. Under that I'm wearing a sheer robe, which was about £3 from a charity shop, over the £4.50 grey bridesmaid's dress from much earlier in the video. It's so shapeless I'm actually wearing it backwards so the lace detail is at the front. Under that is the £1.50 embroidered tank top, just for some variation, and a £2 long sleeve top from a charity shop that is extremely thin, but great when you just need a base layer. The central tabard is just a very cheap shawl folded over a belt, probably one of the cheap job lot belts I got a while back, and then I'm wearing a pair of fingerless lace gloves that were a couple of pounds on a market stall, a decorative metal belt that was also thrifted, a necklace I got from a friend, and a second necklace on my head as a circlet. So I don't love that this is a thing. There's a lot of clothes that are described using inaccurate words borrowed from other places. I don't think we should be using these words, but at the same time people do use these words, and these are useful search terms on eBay. Kind of want to be like, don't use these search terms because if they stop working, people will stop using them. But I also know that a couple of thousand nerds on the internet are not going to make a significant difference to this, so I don't know what to do with this one. Anyway, here's a bunch of search terms that will get you stuff that is suitable for LARP kit, but that are not accurate and not really words I think we should be using to describe fashion. So kimono are the national clothing of Japan. When you search for kimono on British eBay, in the clothing section, you are not going to find that. You are going to find robes with a grown-on sleeve. Absolutely hilarious to me that that's what a kimono sleeve is outside of Japan, given that kimono don't have grown-on sleeves. It is sometimes a useful search term if you want a loose, drapey, unfitted kind of jacket or robe. You can find quite a lot of stuff that will be suitable for your LARP kit. Another search term that gets widely misused is kaftan. 90% of what you see when you search for this is not actually a kaftan. You get these long, shapeless beach cover-ups and robes and dresses. These are not kaftans, but they are good for LARP kit. Boho is another one that I don't love, and yet immediately I can see multiple things that I would 100% wear in a LARP field. I don't have a big, good conclusion on this. There are a bunch of problematic terms that are kind of left to go unchallenged in the fashion industry, and whenever you interact with the fashion industry, even secondhand, which is what you're doing when you're looking for secondhand LARP kit, you're going to end up interacting with those terms. And I think that we need to be aware that they exist. We need to be aware that in the context which they are used is different to what they actually mean. But I also think we need to keep having the conversation about how maybe we shouldn't use these words. Anyway, my final sort of search terms to add on, since we have hit boho, is that you can also use fashions instead of velvet or linen or stand collar, which are qualities of the clothes. You can also use like fashion styles. So for more Victorian style stuff, I often look for goth, but you can also look for cottagecore. There's a style called lagenlook, which is pretty rare in the UK, but is sort of like a drapey, layered, natural style. Yeah, look, immediately lace up velvet. Nice. That's really simple. There's a velvet dress that would work as a tunic. There's a black dress that would work as a tunic. Usually use goth for more Victoriana things, but sometimes it can work for more fantasy LARP, depending on the LARP. Obviously, a big thing you can search for on eBay is specific brands that you already know and like. But for specific brands that are LARP suitable, I find that they don't come up a whole lot. So with things like Arm Street's a great example. Holy Clothing is another one that I think a lot of people use, but that I wouldn't necessarily buy from firsthand. With those, I tend to just save the search. So you can just save the search by pressing the little heart, select the actual brand that you want, hope that people have tagged it correctly. You can also filter by your size first and save it. You can add as many filters as you want and then save that specific search, and it's somewhat reliable. So for example, I've got American Duchess saved down just because I'm unlikely to get American Duchess shoes new. They don't come up very often, but when they do, I want to know about it. The other thing we haven't really talked about very much is accessories. I am generally someone who prefers to buy accessories in person whenever possible, but on the off chance that you don't have that option at all, can also have a bit of a look on your auction site of choice. Things that I do buy off eBay, I buy belts. I tend to add a qualifier on belts straight off the bat, so I either go buckle or leather is good. Even then you get some unsuitable nonsense. You do have to hunt around a bit. An important thing to remember with belts is that they are sized. This is another reason I try and go for leather belts, is because I always need to add more holes, and with a leather belt you can just do that with a punch. You also find like hardware and stuff in the belts section. This is one of those things where I find they vary in price and quality so wildly compared to charity shops or thrift shops. I think can be a bit more consistent, but if you don't have access to charity shops, you can get reasonably priced suitable belts on auction sites. You have to hunt a bit. Leather that's had like a design carved into it is called tooled leather. You don't find a lot, but the things you do find can be very, very beautiful, so that's something that I keep an eye out for. That's a handbag. You could probably convert that into a belt pouch. That would look great on a field. We're kind of getting into the other leather thing you might want, which is that you might want a bag. I like to look for satchels. If you find one really good, very neutral, vintage leather satchel, that's going to do you for basically every character you ever need. That would be great, and it's 99p. That one would be fine. I'd probably wear that one. I'd probably turn that one into a belt pouch. That's quite nice. That's quite neutral. In terms of jewellery, there's a couple of things I like looking for. One search term I think is quite good is cabochon. Basically, faceted gems are relatively new. They're quite hard to make. More medieval jewellery you'll see have these sort of smooth domed gems, and those are cabochons. Make sure that you're looking in jewellery and not craft supplies. Also remember that there will be fine jewellery in here, so I really do recommend filtering by price. Some of these necklaces I think would be great, very plausible in a LARP setting. That one's great, that one's great. They don't necessarily look historical, but they have a bit more of a fancy edge. That one's nice. These are nice. Some really great brooches. Steer away from the picture ones, obviously. That's lovely. I don't know if I want that for a LARP character, but I certainly want it for me. Remember, if you're buying rings, that rings are sized, and it's not the easiest thing to measure your own ring size, so proceed with caution. A fun thing to look for takes a little bit more sifting because you will find a lot of wildly unsuitable stuff. In the jewellery section, the keyword statement normally means weird. What do we say? If it's weird, probably good for a LARP character. Immediately I can see multiple things that I would feel completely comfortable. Like, look at these, just look like rocks. This appears to be, oh, it's some gems. I thought it was a wolf's face. We've ended up with a lot of necklaces, but with earrings, again, I tend to look for the same thing. I tend to look for hanging earrings for LARP because I think that studs tend to be a bit too subtle and people don't really see them. Oh my goodness though. Oh my goodness. Obviously, if you are buying secondhand earrings, you want to sterilize the posts before you use them. Do not just stick them in your ears. You have no idea where they've been. If you don't have pierced ears, you can get clip-on earrings. They are not fun. I'm going to lead in with you will not enjoy wearing clip-on earrings. You get a lot of vintage clip-on earrings that can have some very cool designs. They've got little dragons on them. Don't invest too heavily in clip-on earrings until you've figured out your tolerance level for wearing them. They're not fun. Another good thing we haven't looked at yet is brooches or brooches, depending on how you pronounce them. Try both spellings because they will turn up things. With brooches, what I suggest is that you look for a specific thing. So let's say you're playing a pirate and you want a ship brooch. You will find brooches in the shape of ships. Quite a few brooches. Pick your style and era of ship, right? You will get a lot of things. Let's say you want leaf because you're an elf. Whole bunch of leaves. Basically, pick how expensive and fancy you want your leaf brooch to be. Filigree is a good search term also in jewellery. Filigree is when you get very fine twisty bits of metal, and it can be everything from this incredibly fine scrolled metal to sort of bigger, more art deco shapes. That would be great. That's amazing. That's a bracelet. That's got very chunky details around the edge. Would look brilliant. So filigree is a good qualifier for jewelry terms. I also quite like, in jewelry, sometimes I will have a look for enamel. Enamel is a very, very old process. It usually these days gets used to make novelty things. I just like to keep an eye out because every so often you get something that actually looks like it could be a more historical piece. It's not super often. A lot of modern enamel ends up being quite twee, I think is the nicest way I can describe it. That brooch is actually quite a good example of something that I think is quite timeless. Finally, of course, there are scarves. Scarf is a big word. It covers a lot of things. As you can see, there are so many scarves. I would generally say that what you want are either solids or very simple patterns, like polka dots would probably work, that sort of stripy check would work, that sort of geometric pattern would work, not the big butterflies, right? That would be fine. That'd be okay. Not that. Yes. No. Probably not. Yes. For certain, use qualifiers when looking for scarves. I think normally colour is a good way to filter. So let's say we're wearing a red outfit. Maybe also filter by what material it's made of. What I think you're generally looking for is 1 to 3 scarves in each of the main colours of your outfit in different sizes. You can get away with less than that. Say you have an outfit that's mostly green and black with a little bit of gold. Then if you have a couple of black scarves, a couple of green scarves in different sizes, maybe one gold toned one, you've always got an accessory that you can add. If you feel like the outfit is a little bit too black or a little bit too green, or you haven't managed to get any of the gold tones in, you've always got that one little thing that you can add. I almost never make an outfit where I don't add a scarf. And now for our fourth and final character look, we're going back to basics for every single just wear a tunic and trousers costume brief you've ever received. The velvet trousers, £2, the tunic, £2.50. The jacket, also £2, I think, I'm not sure. I've had it a long time, but it was definitely off eBay. Brooch, £3.25, it's really cool, it's a rose and a crown. Scarf around my arm, I don't even know, but it was like £1. Same pair of Amazon ballet flats I've used for every single outfit. Belt, something I've had forever. Leather belt pouches, admittedly about £10 each second-hand from other LARPers, which you would think would make them the most expensive part of this outfit, but no, it's the scarf around my neck, which is from when I went to see Hamilton. Don't hate me, it was the only thing I could find in my wardrobe in the right colour story. This is comfortable, easy to move in, is super easy to layer up or swap into boots so you could ultimately wear it in a field, would be really open to being upgraded one little detail at a time, and most importantly, provided you could find some kind of normal scarf, comes in at like £40 all in, or less than 20 if you have an alternative to the belt pouches. Congratulations, you made it to the end! I know this has been a marathon to watch, trust me, it was a marathon to make. It was one of those projects where it seemed like a really good, concise idea, and once I started working on it, I got probably 3/5 of the way into editing before I realised just how big it was going to be. So if you've made it this far, I massively appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to keep the YouTube gods happy. Follow me on Instagram to see pictures of my cat, and down in the description box you'll find a link to my Ko-fi page where you can leave a one-off or recurring donation to support this channel and the fact that one day I would like to do this full time. By this, I don't know if I mean videos, or something I would really enjoy is to have like a consignment shop where I scour the internet for appropriate looking clothes and assemble them all together, you know, maybe add some details and some extra things to make a one-stop shop for all your LARP costume needs. I think that would be fun. I think it's something people would appreciate. It would be an absolutely massive amount of time and energy, so that's the dream. For now it stays a dream, but all of your support either through watching this video, subscribing to the channel, sharing the channel with your friends, supporting me on Ko-fi, that all helps develop this into me being able to spend more time doing these things that I really enjoy, which includes creating 2-hour-long instructional videos. And with all that being said, thank you once again for watching all the way to the end. Dream big, and I'll see you next time. It's going to be shorter next time, okay? Shorter one next time.